Come along on a personal trip that we took to Australia in 2024. This is part 1 of a 4-part series covering our experiences. After spending the night in the Premier Inn, we took the short walk to Glasgow Airport to check in and prepare for the first leg of our long haul to Sydney via Dubai. On our first day in Sydney, we started our exploration near St Mary's Cathedral in Hyde Park. Here we were entertained by a chess game, although it looked like there was maybe some coaching going on. Down at the Circular Quay, we encountered this cruise ship preparing to depart and beautifully revealing the Sydney Opera House beyond. The Opera House both looked bigger and smaller than we had imagined. Bigger up close, but smaller in its context. It's much closer to the Sydney Harbour Bridge than we'd imagined. The building stands on Benelong Point, known to the traditional custodians, the Gadigal, as the Tubal Gul. Built in 1973, it's now 51 years old and wearing well. At night, the skyline is dominated by the Sydney Tower Eye, and below it in Hyde Park, the Archibald Memorial Fountain makes for a spectacular sight. The fountain is named after G.F. Archibald, owner and editor of the Bulletin magazine, who bequeathed the funds to have it built.
Next stop, Melbourne.
We took a regular ferry service from Circular Quay across the huge expanse of Sydney Harbour to Manly, passing the Opera House, this time on water. Manly is 11 miles northeast of the Sydney Central Business District and is a beach suburb of northern Sydney. Manly was named by Captain Arthur Phillip for the indigenous people living there. He had said that their confidence and manly behaviour made me give the name of Manly Cove to this place. Manly was envisaged as a seaside resort by Henry Gilbert Smith in the 1850s and is a very popular leisure destination now. Returning to Sydney CBD by ferry gave us another backdrop against which to appreciate the magnificent Opera House. Leaving Sydney Central Station, we took a day trip by train into the Blue Mountains. Travelling on the upper deck of a double-deck train, we enjoyed the 1 hour 40-minute journey to Katoomba. Arriving at Katoomba was a little like stepping back in time with its traditional station. We found our way to the Blue Mountains Cultural Centre, where we enjoyed an exhibition of Aboriginal art. Located in the heart of Katoomba, it encompasses the Blue Mountains City Art Gallery, Katoomba Library, and Into the Blue, an interactive exhibition that explores the history and natural landscape of the Blue Mountains. This is the Australian Aboriginal flag, which we encountered many times on our trip. Katoomba is the heart of the Blue Mountains, which are a World Heritage listed feature. The clifftop walks offer a magnificent view across the mountains and the Jameson Valley below. They derive their name from the blue haze caused by light wave dispersal through small droplets of eucalyptus oil suspended in the air. Cockatoos are as common here as pigeons are in the UK. Well, all good days come to an end, and it was soon time to take the train back to Sydney. The final attraction for us in Sydney was to go to Darling Harbour to visit the Australian National Maritime Museum. We explored HMAS Vampire, Australia's largest museum vessel and the last of the country's big gun ships. It was one of the Daring class, which were the largest destroyers built in Australia. The Vampire served in the Australian Navy from 1959 to 1986. It was armed with 3 twin turrets housing 6 4.5-inch guns, 2 single gun and 2 twin gun Bofors anti-aircraft guns, 5 anti-ship torpedo launchers, and surface-to-subsurface anti-submarine mortar. And despite its firepower, Vampire enjoyed a peaceful career. We also boarded HMAS Onslow, an Oberon-class submarine. Built in Scotland at Greenock, she served the Australian Navy for 30 years before being decommissioned in 1999. In that time, she travelled the equivalent of 16 times round the world. Even now, in the museum, it's close to operational condition. But the conditions are certainly very cramped. There's a huge variety of displays and information inside the museum building. And also inside the museum, we had the chance to go aboard Blackmore's First Lady, the yacht sailed by K. Cottee AO on her voyage around the world in 1987 to 1988, when she became the first woman to complete a circumnavigation as a solo, non-stop and unassisted passage. It's hard to imagine living in these cramped conditions while alone at sea and dealing with all it can throw at you. And then, all too soon, our time in Sydney was up, and we prepared to fly on to Melbourne, which we'll visit in part 2.